Catholic Moments, episode number 75. Margo B. Smith.
Blooming, finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come. Blooming.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Well, thank you, Eric, and welcome everyone to episode number 75 of Catholic Moments, the show from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. And I'm so happy to be with you today to share an episode with one of my favorite Catholic musicians, Margo B. Smith. We'll have some feedback from you and another Catholic Deacon moment as well. So sit back and relax. I'd like to just give you a little bit of a fill-in of what's happened in the last couple of weeks in my life. You will notice that I'm a bit tardy this week in putting out the podcast, and that's because I had a slight medical procedure this week. A few weeks ago, I embarked on the journey of my annual mammogram and was called back into the office last week for a follow-up mammogram, and then followed this week by a biopsy procedure that was done on Wednesday, so a little bit of minor surgery there on Wednesday. And so I was not quite feeling up to recording the podcast this week, but I'm happy to report that my results were very positive and that I will be meeting with another physician in the next couple of weeks just to address a couple of little issues, but for the most part, the results were great, and I appreciate the few friends who prayed with me through this particular situation. It's very interesting that we'd be talking this week to Margo Smith about the beauty of Eucharistic adoration, because I find that during times of stress, it's very wonderful to spend quiet time in prayer, and particularly the gift of Eucharistic adoration was a big gift to me this week. So I'm sorry once again for the tardiness of the podcast, but I hope you'll enjoy this episode. And let's start off, as always, with a moment from our favorite online deacon, Deacon Tom Fox, who wraps up this week with our last installment of our St. Therese series. Here's Deacon Tom.
The clock chime on the theme I use for Deacon Moments reminds me that I have but 3.5 minutes to complete our look at this woman I love, this woman of love. Would that I had 33 more programs, because I know there are so many who have tried but never finished reading her life story. Some return to her autobiography later to find the words springing to life, and a spiritual turning point begins as someone anew discovers the beautiful little way of Therese. So many areas of her writing have stirred my heart and soul. Just yesterday, my wife and I were driving in Arizona, and we came upon a red and rose and sand-colored mountain vista that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was so awesome. It reminds me of what Therese wrote of Switzerland, with its towering mountains whose snow-capped peaks lost in the clouds, with waterfalls and deep valleys. The profusions of nature's loveliness did so much good to my soul. I cannot say what an impression the magnificence and grandeur of these made on me. It was a foretaste of heaven. Yes, Therese, yes, I've seen such handiwork in Colorado and California and Arizona, in vineyards and Canadian farmlands. Thanks to you, dear Lord and Creator. The little flower who recognized God's Son in the Eucharist and God's power in creation, she herself came upon the amazing little way, a way of recognizing God's loving plan, seeing us as a vision of different kinds of flowers in a garden. She said the Father does not inspire us to do what cannot be done. So if in you there is a hunger for a new innocence and love and holiness, Jesus will share Therese with you. She will come and fill you, good measure and flowing over. Therese teaches us that we are to stay little, unseen. It was she who is said to have started the use of sacrifice beads, doing little unseen acts of love and kindness for others. And if you would like a set of little flower sacrifice beads, send me an email and I'll send you one free. I do not know how it happens that such as me talks this way about this yearning in her, this yearning in me, in us. But Therese wrote that we need only to speak simply, and our Father never fails to understand. Therese is here with me as I put together this reflection. She's with me when I walk. She looks at me with understanding when I'm weak. She reminds me that there is a fire in my soul, and I do not yet know what fires my life is meant to ignite, nor what fires you are meant to ignite. Therese is doing good works here on earth. That's what she promised. This is Deacon Tom. Blessings.
Well, thank you, Deacon Tom, for rounding out our month of reflections on St. Therese of Lisieux, St. Therese, the Little Flower. And I do want to remind you of a few things. The first is that Deacon Tom is graciously sponsoring a contest, and you have 2 opportunities to win the book, A Story of a Soul, the autobiography of St. Therese. And there are 2 ways, again, for you to win that. You can either send an email to me at lisahendy@gmail.com, or you can visit stthereseoflisieux.org and click on the email me button on the left-hand side of the page there, and you'll find instructions for this particular giveaway on catholicmoments.com. Additionally, Deacon Tom mentioned in his Deacon Moment that he is graciously offering St. Therese sacrifice beads to anyone who emails him directly, so I'll be sure to have his email address in our show notes as well. And if you don't know about those particular beads, they're a wonderful little thing to carry around in your pocket or your purse, just to remind you throughout the day to offer up things as St. Therese did in her own little way, for a sign of love for Jesus and a sign of our love for the family members and friends in our life that we do our service to. So take advantage of Deacon Tom's offer. I'd love to have him making those sacrifice beads around the clock. So again, you can always visit Deacon Tom at www.deacontomonline.com. And thanks, Deacon Tom. And now I'd like to introduce you to a special song by today's musical guest, Margo B. Smith. The song is entitled Spending Time Adoring You, and we'll listen to a little bit of this song and then enjoy our interview with Margo B. Smith.
Lord, whenever you speak to me, I am listening. Here I am with uplifted hands. Ask whatever you want of me. I am willing. I completely trust your plans. I completely trust your plans. Lord, I love to be in your presence, just to spend time adoring you at your feet in the peaceful silence, spending time adoring you. I will gladly gaze at you. You're my desire. Your presence is healing.
I'm so pleased today to be with our guest for this episode of Catholic Moments, Margo B. Smith, the wonderful Catholic songwriter and musician. How are you today, Margo?
Well, I'm doing pretty well. Nursing a sore throat, so hopefully that'll get through without coughing or anything.
Well, that can be a dangerous thing for a singer. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us and share about the wonderful music that you're creating and all the good things that are happening in your music ministry. And what I'd like to ask you to do first off is just to briefly introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about your family, and your music ministry.
Okay. Well, first, I'd like to thank you for having me on here. That it's very kind of you. And also, I just want to say that I think CatholicMom.com website is fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Of all the resources you have, I wish that it had been around when I was raising my kids. And it's just great what you're doing. So,
thanks.
And I want to say hello to everyone listening, too. And I was born in Kansas and have lived most of my life in Baltimore. All my relatives are back there in Kansas, so we go back there to visit. My parents are Catholic, so they baptized me as a Catholic and raised me as a Catholic. And in my early teenage years, I had an experience of God's grace in a way that affected me profoundly and is really one of the motivations for where my music comes from. And I was going through a very difficult time in an early teenage years, and I was very depressed, and I was questioning the existence of God because I was so sad and suffering, wondering why person can suffer and whether there was even a God. And one night I was just so sad. I called out to God and I said, I don't even know if you exist. And at that moment, I was infused with this wonderful peace and love and just a definite understanding that God does exist and that He loves me deeply and personally. And so that has actually affected my whole life. And I didn't talk about it because it was very strange to me, the experience, the whole thing, even though it was wonderful. I hadn't heard of that happening to any of my friends, and it was just kind of very different. So I kept it quiet for a very long time, but I had a deep desire after that to read Scripture and to find people that would talk about the Lord or wanted to pray.
Right.
And, a couple years after that experience, I actually met my future husband, and we were in high school together, and we were married 7 years after we met, and we conceived 4 children. 2 were miscarried, and then the other 2 are adults now, and we've been married for 29 years.
Oh, congratulations. What a testament to Christ at the center of a marriage and all that it can bring.
Yes.
So the CDs that you've recorded, let's talk a little bit more about the launch of your musical career. And I know from listening to other interviews with you and from reading your bio that music has been a part of your life since childhood. But how did the recording of these CDs come about, and how have you kind of launched into music ministry?
Well, the Because You Love Me CD came out because I had written a bunch of songs, and they were just sitting there, and I actually, my love of Scripture, I read regularly, and one passage that really stuck out to me, and it really meant a lot, was Matthew 25, the parable about the talents. And it just kept going on and on in my head about how we're all given a different number of talents, and we're to use them for the Lord. And the person that didn't use his talents and buried them, it went very poorly for him. and I just didn't want to be that person. And also just this desire to share about God's love because of what I had experienced. A lot of these songs on that Because You Love Me CD are about God's love for us and our love for Him and our love for our neighbor. And I finished that CD, and that was released in 2006, and then I had some songs left over from that, and in early 2007 I went back in the recording studio just to record those songs, and I got them done, but in the process I started writing some new songs, and we just kept recording, and when I stepped back by spring, I realized, I had a collection here, and a lot of these songs that I had recorded were prayers, or about prayer, and so one of the songs on the CD is called "Sending Up a Prayer."
Yes.
And so I thought, well, that would be a good title because this kind of explains what this whole CD is about.
So to talk about that CD, and again, our guest is Margo B. Smith, and if you're curious about her music or would like to order it, you can head over to her website at margobsmith.com, and we'll have links to that in our show notes. But the newest CD, Sending Up a Prayer, has received quite a lot of critical acclaim, and you're actually nominated for 2 Unity Awards this year, which are coming up, and I saw that the album is nominated, and also that it's the song "Spending Time Adoring You" is nominated for the Praise and Worship Song of the Year.
Right.
So congratulations on that. And let's talk for just a moment about the message of that particular song, that "Spending Time Adoring You," and your message of spending time in adoration of the Blessed Sacrament.
Well, that song did come out of time spent before our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. When I first started going to the Adoration Chapel, I went out of more feeling like this was the right thing to do, and I'd set aside going once a week, and I just started doing that. And what I found was the more that I went, the more I desired to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are in the presence of the Lord, there is such peace and joy, and I wanted to keep going back in, and so I did, and I have experienced wonderful time with the Lord. Actually has experienced a healing in a way that before I had started doing this, I'd been, and I don't understand this, and maybe some people out there listening, they might experience this, the loneliness that I used to have all the time. I had my family,
mm-hmm.
and I had my friends, I had my children, I had my husband. There was no reason for me to feel lonely, and I even was a Christian. I mean, I loved the Lord too.
Right.
But for some reason, I felt a loneliness that I couldn't explain. And over that period of a year when I'd started going and just being very regular about going to the Adoration Chapel, I stepped back at the end of the year, and that feeling, the loneliness was gone. And what I had realized was, there's really no reason to ever be lonely, because if we lose our family, our friends, or we're by ourselves, we can always be with Jesus. We can go to the Adoration Chapel and just be with Him and spend time with Him and love Him back. It's just such a wonderful gift that our faith has.
And to be able to sum that up in the song as beautifully as you did, we'll be playing that song throughout the course of the show. But one of the things that I heard you mention in another interview is that not all of us are blessed enough to have a Eucharistic adoration chapel in our parishes, but that even time spent in front of the tabernacle mm-hmm. in church, and even if that's just a few quiet moments at the beginning or the end of a day. I know a lot of our listeners are moms who have, very busy lives and kids mm-hmm. with them. And even those little visits to Jesus throughout the course of a day, if you're, anywhere near your church, to be able to run in and spend just a couple of quiet moments is such a blessing. And it's something that really was captured through that song. So I want to congratulate you on that. And I have to ask you about another of your songs, which is the song Precious Unborn Child. Could you just say a few words about the writing of that song and what it's meant to you and others who have heard it?
Well, actually, that song was written originally back in 1992, and it was first written with the verses that were explaining the development of a baby within the womb, like when the heart starts beating and when the fingerprints are formed, and when the baby can hear the mother's heartbeat, they get their hearing. And I just I looked at that song and I thought I really would like to change it a little bit more and make it more of a personal expression of what my experience was when I was carrying my children in the womb, and just to let people know that this gift of life that we have from God is precious, and it is a gift, and that is life, in the womb, and it's to be cherished.
Well, you do such a beautiful job with the song of summing up that feeling and sharing it, and I know that in in the time that we're in politically right now and a lot of the discussions that are going on, that it's very important for us to be praying for life. And that song definitely helped me to do that. So I want to thank you for that. Now tell us, you've got a trip coming up. You're going to be heading down to New Orleans. Tell us a little bit more about the excitement leading up to the Unity Awards.
Well, I bought my tickets. I'm going to go, and I've never been, actually, so I don't quite know what to expect. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be there cheering everybody on, and hopefully it'll be a great experience. I'm sure it will. Because there's a lot of people there. That they have wonderful artists that are singing, and I'm looking forward to hearing them, and it'll be great.
Such a great thing. And is this is your first time to attend,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
For listeners who may not be familiar with the Unity Awards, can you just tell them a little bit more about what it is?
Well, the Unity Awards, it stands for United Catholic Music and Video Association, the UCMVA, and it's Catholic artists that are recognized for different works that they've done throughout that year. So there's all different categories of songs, and they're nominated, and then they're voted on, and then they receive an award.
So exciting. It's kind of like the Catholic Grammys.
Yeah, right.
I was really hoping to go this year, and I always hope that I'll get there at some point in the future, because I'm such a big fan of Catholic music and of the work that people like you are doing. And I know that unlike secular musicians who can make $1 million doing this, that it really is a labor of the heart, and that you have to invest a lot, not only emotionally and physically, but also financially, and in sharing your faith through your music. So I want to thank you for the stick-to-itiveness of doing
that.
Thank you. So hopefully at some point we'll meet in the future. But
yes.
I do want to again have everybody head over to margobsmith.com, and Margo's first name is Margo, so you can see that at margobsmith.com. You can find all of her music, and hopefully we'll check in a few weeks and find out how the Unity Awards have gone. But are there any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you get back to getting on with your recuperating?
I would just encourage anybody that has a desire to spend more time with the Lord to go ahead and act on that desire, that inspiration. And I know that there are moms with a lot of little ones that might be listening. And I found here in Baltimore, some mothers actually trade time. They'll watch one mom's kids and let one go, for adoration for a while, and then the other one will watch the other one's kids and go. So, just practical ways of trying to find time to go and spend time with the Lord. So.
Great. Well, Margo, I want to let everybody know again that they can find your music and also get in contact with you with respect to performances and speaking through your website at margobsmith.com. And thank you so much. And keep in touch with me and let me know how things are going with your career.
All right. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Well, I want to congratulate again Margo and her fellow nominees for the Catholic Grammy Awards, per se. The Unity Awards were held last night, and you can head over to one of my good friends' websites. Susan Bailey is the host of the Grapevine website and also the Grapevine Music Minute, which is a terrific podcast, and Susan has all the results listed. I'm going to have a link in the show notes for you to find out who were the big winners at last night's Unity Awards. And next up, I'm happy to hear from our good friend, Carrie, the Parish Media Liaison.
Hi, Lisa. It's Carrie Madden, the Catholic Parish Media Liaison, calling with an update and warm greetings to you. I hope you had a fabulous trip out to Notre Dame, and I'm looking forward to hearing your On the Road podcast. And I was just calling because I found a really neat website called votesmart.org. It is a website run pretty much by volunteers. I'm going to read to you what it says on their website. Picture this. Thousands of citizens, conservative and liberal alike, working together, spending endless hours researching the backgrounds and records of thousands of political candidates and elected officials to discover their voting records, campaign contributions, public statements, biographical data, including their work history, and evaluations of them generated by over 100 competing special interest groups. Every election, these volunteers test each candidate's willingness to provide citizens with their positions on issues they will most likely face if elected through the political courage test. Now, the political courage test, some candidates choose not to take it, but there is some wonderful information on this website about each candidate, and it's nonpartisan. It's very just the facts, ma'am. So I thought it was, or sir, I really enjoyed checking it to be able to check out the different voting records of the candidates and learn a little bit more about them. So I highly recommend that. And if you're looking for a Catholic perspective on the elections, I want to recommend priestforlife.org/elections. They have views of the candidates, comparing their views, and finding out what their true stance is on all different topics that matter to Catholics. So I highly recommend both websites, and I hope you're home safe and sound from a wonderful trip, and I'm looking forward to hearing the next Catholic Moments. Take care and have a great day.
Well, thanks, Carrie. And as always, you'll find a link to Carrie Madden's wonderful blog in our show notes over at CatholicMoments.com. And now I'm so happy to share with you some email feedback that we've had during the last few weeks. It's been a really great couple weeks for feedback, and I want to thank you for that. And thank you as well to the person who headed over to iTunes and left us a review over there, and all of my new friends on Facebook. And here are just a few emails that we've received this week. The first is from our good friend D Fox, and she says, just finished listening to episode number 73 and your interview with Mountain Butoric. I wanted to chime in on his suggestion of staying in convents abroad. We traveled to Italy in 2004 just after Deacon Tom's ordination, along with another deacon couple. We didn't go as part of any organized tour, but rather we planned a 17-day trip on our own, intending it to be much like a pilgrimage as possible. We succeeded in that goal. We were able to get lodging in 3 different convents, in Florence, Orvieto, and Assisi. Our only regret was that we weren't able to get reservations at convents in the other cities we visited. Not only was it very cost-effective and the food was good, as Mountain mentioned, but it gave us a chance to visit closely with the sisters, and we always had a lovely little chapel within steps of our rooms. We highly recommend this approach to lodging, especially in Italy. Well, thanks, Steve, for chiming in with that suggestion. I just hope I get to take a trip to Italy sometime in the future, and I'll definitely take you up on your suggestion. And next we have an email from Stephanie, and Stephanie wrote into me, as did the next couple of emails, in response to our contest. And again, just a reminder that you need to get your email in for this. We only have a few days left in the month of October, and it's your chance again to win the Story of a Soul. Stephanie says, "Hi, Lisa. I'm writing my entry email for the Story of a Soul giveaway. I also want to let you know that I love your podcast. It's very motivating to hear a Catholic mom talk about her life as a devoted wife and mom. The people you interview are always very fascinating to me. As a work-at-home mom of 2 small children, I believe that you can never get enough motivation to keep up the hard work of raising children for God. I listen to your podcast at night while I'm working on my sewing business, long after the kids are in bed. I can't think of a better way to make the work go by faster. Have a great week." And thank you, Stephanie, for writing that. You know, I tell you guys this all the time, but when I get emails like this, it just really touches my heart and makes me want to keep going and working as hard as I can on the Catholic Moments podcast. So thank you, Stephanie, and you have been entered to win. And so has your friend Carrie, who wrote us from Michigan, and she says, "Hi, Lisa. As a cradle Catholic, I've only begun to start really exploring my faith, and I have to say in all honesty that much of it is through the convenience of podcasts. Recently found your show and loved it. Your internet interviews are fascinating, and I love Deacon Tom's wisdom. Please enter me in the contest." Well, I'll second the loving Deacon Tom's wisdom. So thank you, Carrie. And our last email is from Carla, who you might remember from a previous episode, and she says, regarding the contest to win Story of a Soul, the autobiography of St. Therese of Lisieux. "Hi, Lisa. I'm still out here listening to all the SQPN on the video iPod, thanks to you for connecting me with Jane, who graciously gave me her video iPod. Thanks again for that connection. God bless," from Carla. Well, God bless you too, Carla. I'm so happy that you're out there listening. And just a reminder that if you are an SQPN listener, you're going to want to support your favorite SQPN podcast. The network had 7 shows nominated this year for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. And I'm going to have a link for you in our show notes at CatholicMoments.com where you can head over and register your vote. We need you to vote every day between now and the end of voting to support the work that Catholic podcasters are out there doing. And I know that you guys are going to come through in a big way, and we're going to come home with all kinds of People's Choice Podcast Awards. So congrats to my fellow podcasters who were nominated. And again, they need your support and they need your votes. Well, this week we're going to close out the podcast with a special song, again by Margo B. Smith, and this song is entitled Precious Unborn Child, and I would love to pray this song with you. So thank you so much for listening in. I hope you'll find time this week to email me your feedback at lisa@catholicmom.com or to call our voice feedback line anytime at 206-339-9272. And until the next episode, you can follow me on Twitter, over at Facebook, or on plurk.com. And you can always check us out at catholicmoments.com or sqpn.com. I hope you have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
You are so small, nestled snug and warm. I'm gonna shower you with kisses on the day you're born. Will you have your daddy's eyes? And will you have my smile? I'm counting the days till I hold you. My little one, you're beautiful. I treasure you, my child. You are loved by God, so full of life. You are my precious unborn child. It surprises me when I feel you move. That's when I sing you a lullaby, hoping it will soothe. I love to picture you safely cuddled to my chest. Your life has made me feel so blessed. My little one, you're beautiful. I treasure you, my child. You are loved by God, so full of life. You are my precious unborn child. I did not know I'd have joy like this. You are a miracle, one of God's great gifts. My little one, you're beautiful. I treasure you, my child. You are loved by God, so full of life. You are my precious unborn child. You are my precious unborn child.
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.